Hello, sixth graders. Today is our first day of fractions. I love fractions. I've been teaching fractions for so many years, so I need you to follow along. We're going to be going through this quickly because this is review. This is where I've been telling you all along to know your math facts because fractions are simple if you can multiply and divide. Let's get cruising here. Follow along with me. We're going to be finding some equivalent fractions by multiplying. Look close. The first one is 4/5. We're going to multiply the numerator and the denominator each by 2. 4 times 2 is 8. 5 times 2 is 10. Multiplying each by 2. 7 times 2 is 14. 10 times 2 is 20. Ooh, I almost had a mistake there. 1/4. We're going to multiply them both by 2. 1 times 2 is 2. 4 times 2 is 8. We're going to keep moving. 2 times 2/3. 2 times 2 is 4. 3 times 2 is 6. The next one is 5/4. 5 times 2 is 10. 4 times 2 is 8. Last one, 2/2. 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times 2 is 4. Your answer is 4/4. Do you see how simple, so easy? We're going to keep rolling along here. That's how you multiply. When you're finding equivalent fractions, they're equal. So whatever you do on the top, you must do on the bottom. Another quick refresher. We have a fraction. The numerator is on top. The denominator is on the bottom. How I tell kids to remember? You have North Dakota as a neighboring state. The N is the top. The D is on the bottom. Let's keep moving along. Find an equivalent fraction by dividing. So whatever you do on the top, you have to do on the bottom. Whatever you do on the bottom, you have to do on the top. So we're going to take a look here. This very first problem is 9/12. We have to think what number can go into 9 and to 12. The number is 3. I'm going to divide 9 by 3. I'm going to get a 3. 12 divided by 3, we get a 4. That is how you find an equivalent fraction by dividing. This is also how you reduce fractions. We have the numbers 20 and we have the numbers 100. Let's divide both of those by 5. 20 divided by 5, you get a 4. 100 divided by 5, you get a 20. Guess what? We can get this even smaller. Let's divide both these by 4. We have 4/20. We're going to divide both by 4. 4 divided by 4, we get a 1. 20 divided by 4, we get a 5. So we're trying to get these numbers as small as possible. We have a 4 and a 16. What goes into both? 4 goes into both. 4 divided by 4, we get 1. 16 divided by 4, we get a 4. Next one, number 10, we have 30/12. Let's divide both those by 6. You're probably thinking, let's divide by 2, but guess what? 6 can go into both, and we want to try and find the biggest number that goes into both so we can make it as small as possible. 30 divided by 6, we get a 5. 12 divided by 6, we get a gets a 2. Let's keep moving here. We have 10/50. Let's divide both by 10. 10 divided by 10, we get 1. 50 divided by 10, we get a 5. Last one, number 12. We have 16/24. You're probably thinking, what goes into both those? Well, I'm going to tell you one thing. 16 and 24, they're both even, Mr. Green. I can divide them both by 2. Well, let's go ahead and do that. Let's divide them both by 2. We have an 8/12. We can make that even smaller. Let's divide those by 2. 8 divided by 2, we get a 4. 12 divided by 2, we get a 6. We can make those even smaller. Divided by 2, divided by 2. We get a 2/3. 2/3 is your answer. But let me ask you this, kids. What if we were to divide both these by 8 right away? 16 divided by 8 is 2. 24 divided by 8 is 3. Do you see how if you can find the bigger number right away, you can eliminate doing all this extra work? And when you have a lot of problems and you're doing all this extra work, guess what? It's going to take you forever to complete your math assignment. So listen very closely to all the tricks I'm going to be teaching you with fractions. Because tell you what, I love fractions and I love making life easy for you. Write 3 equivalent fractions for each number. So I have the number 1/3. Now there's a variety of equivalent fractions we can come up with, but let's just take a look here. Let's just start with right away. Let's multiply by 2. 1 times 2 is 2. 3 times 2 is 6. Let's take this now and let's multiply by 3. 1 times 3 is 3. 3 times 3 is 9. Let's make it even. Let's multiply by 5. 1 times 5 is 5. 3 times 5 is 15. These are all equivalent to 1/3. Let's take a look over here. We have 75/100. We have to find some equivalent fractions for that one. Let's make life easier instead of making just huge numbers. And what I don't want you kids doing for equivalent fractions, don't just multiply by 10, by 10, by 10, by 10, because you're not really teaching me, you're not explaining that you understand the concepts. You're just telling me that you can multiply by 10. 75 over 100, I always like this problem because you're kind of dealing with money and quarters. Everyone likes quarters because they go to gumball machines and they try and buy as much gum as possible. Let's take 75. How many quarters go into 75? Well, the answer is 3. 3 quarters go into 75, so how many quarters go into a dollar? The answer is 4. Essentially, because what I just did is I divided 75 by 25, which I got 3. I divided 100 by 25, I got 4. Now I can work with 3/4. Let's multiply this by 2. 3 times 2 is 6. 4 times 2 is 8. Did you know that 6/8 is equivalent to 75 over 100? It is, because they both equal 3/4. Let's take another one. Let's multiply 3/4 by 5. 5 times 3 is 15. 5 times 4 is 20. It's the same thing. 15 over 20 is equivalent to 75 over 100. They both equal 3/4. Let's move down here. We have the number 6. You're probably wondering, what can I find that's equivalent to the number 6? Well, if I have the number 6 and I want to write it as a fraction, it is 6 over 1. Pretty easy, pretty basic. You're probably wondering, well, how do I find another fraction? Well, let's multiply. What's 6 times 2? It's 12. What's 1 times 2? It's 2. What's 6 times 3? It's 18. What's 1 times 3? It's 3. What's 6 times 5? It's 30. What's 5 times 1? It's 5. All of these equal 6. Because if you take a look here, when we're trying to solve and work backwards, this right here essentially means 12 divided by 2. That equals 6. 18 divided by 3 is 6. 30 divided by 5 is 6. Let's move on. We have 12 over 5. Let's find some problems. Let's do some work here. Let's go times 2. 12 times 2 is 24. 5 times 2 is 10. 12 times 3 is 36. 5 times 3 is 15. 4 times 12 is 48. 5 times 3 is 15. Boom. Done. Do you see how I didn't do any multiplication with tens, hundreds, or 1,000? Let's keep going. Write each fraction in simplest form. So that means that we got to take this fraction, we have to make it as small as possible. When it says simplest form, most likely we're always going to be dividing. Now there's different ways to do it. You can divide, if they're both even numbers, you can divide by 2, divide by 2, divide by 2, and get as small as possible. Or we can just try and think ahead and make it easier. For example, the first one, we have 8 and 16. What number goes into both? Well, can 8 go into 8? It sure can. Can 8 go into 16? It sure can. Let's solve it. 8 divided by 8 is 1. 16 divided by 8 is 2. Is 8 half of 16? It sure is. So the answer is half. Let's move on to the next problem. 6 over 9. What number goes into both? Well, one's even, one's odd. Let's divide them both by 3. Divide by 3, divide by 3. 6 divided by 3 is 2. 9 divided by 3 is 3. Our answer is 2/3. 3/15. Is that as small as it can go? I know I can divide 3 by 3. Can I divide 15 by 3? I sure can. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 15 divided by 3 is 5. Next problem is 10 over 25. I know 5 can go into both those. 10 can't go into both because 10 can't go into 25. 10 divided by 5 is 2. 25 divided by 5 is 5. We can't get any smaller than 2/5. Next problem is 6 over 16. Let's divide both those by 2. 6 divided by 2, we get 3. 16 divided by 2, we get 8. We can't make that any smaller. There's your answer. Ooh, this last one. That might be in simplest form. 14 over 49. One's even, one's odd. 49 seems like a number we can't break apart very easily. What numbers go into 14? Well, we know 1 goes into 14. 2 goes into 2 times 7 is 14. 7 can go into 14. Can 7 go into 49? It sure can. So let's divide these by 7. 14 divided by 7 is 2. 49 divided by 7 is 7. Our answer is 2/7. Let's keep cruising along here, okay? 1/5 equals x over 15. Remember that little thing I told you in the very beginning of this lesson? Whatever you do on the bottom, you have to do on the top. Let's take a look here. 5 times 3 is 15. So 1 times 3 is 3. That means my x equals 3. 3 times 6 is 18, so 2 times 6 is 12. Do you see how if you don't know that 3 times 6 is 18, this problem is going to take you forever. You're going to be confused. You're not going to understand fractions. It's not that you don't understand fractions. It's because you can't multiply yet. So when I've been telling you since September 5th or whenever the first time, September 1st, I think was the first time I met you, we have to make sure we can multiply. That's the only way fractions are going to be easy. Keep that in mind. Moving on. 25 into 50, 15 into what? Okay, so if 25 times 2 is 50, so 15 times 2 is 30. So 30 is my answer. Keep cruising. Now we got some practice problems. It looks like we got some long division here. I'm only going to solve one of these division problems because we've been working on so much division and the video is already 11 minutes long. I'm going to solve this one, so watch closely. Can 24 go into the number 6? It can't. So I'm going to put a 0. I'm going to subtract. Please follow along. Some of you are still struggling with division. 6 minus 0 is 6. I'm bringing down a 5. How close can 24 get to 65? Well, I know 24 times 3 would be too close to 75 because 24 is close to 25. So 24 times 24, 2 is 48. I'm going to subtract. If this number right here is bigger than 24, then I have to go back and solve. So let's take a look here. We've got to make this a 15. I have to make this a 5, 7, 1. That's 17. Bring down this 4. How many times can 24 go into 174? I have no idea. So I'm going to take a 24. I'm going to multiply it by 8. Let's see what we get. 4 times 8, 32. 8 times 2 is 16 plus 3 is 192. We are way too high on that. 24 times 7. We have an 8. We have a 2. 2 times 7 is 14 plus 2 is 16. There's our answer. I'm going to put a 7 up top. I have a 168 right here. To subtract, I have a 6. My answer is 27, remainder 6. There's another way to write this out, and I want you to watch very closely on how to write this out, okay? This remainder 6 also means 27, 6 over 24, because we're dividing with 24. If I were to reduce that 6 over 24 down, what number goes into both? 6 does. Divide by 6, I have 1/4. Because 24 divided by 6 is 4. So my answer could also be written as 26 and 1/4. Would be one way to write it. Okay? Another way to write it would be 27, remainder 6. You know what? If we were to make a decimal, do you know what I know the decimal would be? It'd be 27.25. You're probably wondering, how did I know it was 25? Because 1/4 as a decimal is 0.25. Hopefully this helps a little bit with math. Beginning stages of fractions. Tomorrow and days to come, we're going to be working on some more complex fractions. We're going to be comparing fractions, adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing fractions. So you have to understand the basics of fractions after today. And I look forward to working with you. Good luck.